In a world where the boundaries between reality and game mechanics had fused, society had transformed. Professions rooted in fantasy were now commonplace, and the discovery of ruins and secret realms had become an integral part of life. At a local academy, the excitement was palpable. A teacher, brimming with enthusiasm, addressed his class, urging them to prepare for the upcoming job transition ceremony. His voice resonated with excitement, fueling the energy in the room as students eagerly gathered their belongings, ready to experience a life-changing event. However, in stark contrast to the lively atmosphere, one student sat silently at the back of the classroom. His name was Lu Fan, and his demeanor stood out among the buzzing energy. While his classmates clamored to leave, he remained seated, his face etched with unease. Noticing this, the teacher approached him, concern flickering in his eyes. "Lu Fan, what's wrong? You're the top student in this class, you have nothing to worry about," the teacher reassured him. But Lu Fan appeared distracted, his gaze unfocused as if he were seeing something no one else could. Suddenly, a translucent screen materialized before his eyes, displaying vibrant text. "Congratulations! The Super Treasure Map system has been successfully activated." For a moment, Lu Fan was stunned, unable to process what had just occurred. The appearance of this mysterious system left him speechless. Before he could dwell on it further, the teacher's voice snapped him back to reality. "Lu Fan! Are you even listening to me?" the teacher barked, his patience wearing thin. Startled, Lu Fan quickly apologized, scrambling out of his seat. "I'm going now." "Sorry, sir," he blurted, hastily making his way out of the classroom. As he descended the stairs, his thoughts raced. A system? His mind whirled with questions. He muttered under his breath, "There's no way I could survive in a world like this without one." Despite his curiosity about its purpose, he decided to push those thoughts aside for now. Reaching the bottom of the staircase, Lu Fan steadied himself. First things first, he resolved. The job transition ceremony awaited, and it was too important to miss. Outside the academy building, a large crowd of students had already gathered. They stood before an elevated stage, where a dazzling object drew their attention, a massive crystalline structure that radiated an ethereal glow. "Is that the job transition crystal?" one student whispered, eyes wide with amazement. "I've never seen one before." "Same here," another added nervously, shifting their weight from one foot to the other. The murmurs grew louder until a commanding voice from the stage boomed across the courtyard. "Quiet," the speaker ordered, silencing the chatter instantly. All eyes turned to the stage, where the ceremony was about to begin, the anticipation in the air thick enough to cut with a blade. As Lu Fan navigated through the dense crowd, snippets of conversation buzzed around him. He passed by a student animatedly sharing his aspirations. "It'd be incredible if I awakened as a hidden combat professional," the student said, his voice brimming with excitement. "Imagine being powerful, admired by thousands." However, his companion wasn't so optimistic. With a scoff, he replied, "Stop dreaming. Hidden combat professionals? In our school? You've got better odds of winning the lottery." He snorted and added with a smirk, "If I end up with a life profession, I'll be begging my ancestors for mercy." Up on the stage, an elderly man stepped forward, his commanding presence drawing the crowd's attention. "Students, the job transition ceremony is about to begin," he announced, his voice clear and authoritative. "Joining me today is the priest who will oversee this year's transitions." The announcement sparked a wave of whispers among the students. They gazed at the priest with awe and curiosity. "That's the professional who manages job transitions?" someone murmured. "Look at his aura," another marveled. "It's so strong. Imagine awakening with an aura like that." While others were lost in admiration, Lu Fan quietly observed the priest. Even from a distance, he could sense the imposing presence of a true combat professional. His thoughts, however, were interrupted by a sudden notification from his system. "New skill acquired, Eye of Appraisal." The unexpected message left Lu Fan momentarily stunned. "Eye of Appraisal," he muttered. Without hesitation, he activated the skill. A translucent interface appeared before him, displaying a glowing icon hovering over the priest. With growing curiosity, Lu Fan tapped on it, and a detailed profile of the priest materialized in front of him. "So, this skill lets me see a person's stats and attributes," Lu Fan thought, his nerves easing slightly as he realized the utility of his newfound ability. Meanwhile, the student's attention shifted to a particular individual in the crowd. Tall, confident, and exuding natural charisma, he stood out among his peers. "That guy must have insane attributes," one student commented enviously. "Look at the way he carries himself. He's a shoo-in for a combat profession." "I heard job transitions are mostly random," another replied. "But yeah, better stats do increase the chances. And he's not just strong, he's ridiculously handsome." Cheers and whispers filled the air as the priest began the ceremony. With practiced ease, the priest raised his hands, invoking his skills. The crowd fell silent as the glowing job transition crystal at the center of the stage began to radiate a mesmerizing light. The tall student stepped forward, his face brimming with confidence as the priest focused his energy on him. The crystal's glow intensified, bathing the stage in its ethereal light, signaling that the transition process had begun. Every pair of eyes was fixed on the stage, anticipation and envy thick in the air. The job transition crystal suddenly flared with a brilliant light, producing a massive, swirling ball of fire that crackled with intense heat. Gasps and murmurs swept through the crowd as students stared in awe. "He's a mage," someone exclaimed, pointing at the glowing sphere. "Not just any mage, he can cast fireballs." "Zhang Tao really became a combat professional," another shouted, their voice tinged with both envy and admiration. The name Zhang Tao echoed through the crowd as the newly transitioned student stepped forward with a smug smile. Raising his hand, he conjured a small, blazing fireball that hovered above his palm. The students erupted into cheers and whispers. "Zhang Tao is incredible. He's destined for greatness," one student gushed. "Yeah, his future is as bright as that fireball," another agreed. "If I were him, I wouldn't let anyone get near me. I'd totally cling to his leg," someone joked, causing laughter among the group. Meanwhile, Lu Fan stood silently, his gaze fixed on the stage. Awe mixed with a hint of anxiety flickered in his eyes. Once someone becomes a combat professional, they can leave behind the mundane life of an ordinary person, he murmured to himself, marveling at the transformation. The elder on stage, however, was far from pleased. His stern expression deepened as he slammed his staff against the ground. "Enough," he barked, his voice cutting through the commotion. "Quiet down and let's continue the ceremony." Reluctantly, the students fell silent as the next candidates were called up. One by one, they stepped forward to face the crystal, their fates unfolding before their peers. A young man approached and completed his transition, a soft green glow surrounding him. "I'm a herbalist," he declared, his voice filled with pride. "I'll carry on my family's legacy." The next participant, a bulky, muscular student, wasn't as lucky. "A tailor," he grumbled, his voice laced with frustration. "This can't be right. I don't even like sewing." A thin, nervous student followed. As the crystal completed his transition, his face fell. "A miner," he stammered, trembling. I don't want this." Standing on the sidelines, Lu Fan observed the proceedings, his thoughts racing. "So, combat professions really are rare," he mused, his expression thoughtful. "Most people end up with life professions instead. It's clear that awakening as a combat professional opens the door to limitless opportunities." He turned his gaze back to the crowd, noting the stark contrast between the students. Those who had transitioned into combat roles were radiant with joy, basking in the admiration of their peers. In stark contrast, those who awakened life professions wore expressions of disappointment, their shoulders slumped under the weight of dashed hopes. For them, Lu Fan thought, awakening as a life professional often means resigning to a life of mediocrity. As his mind lingered on this harsh reality, a voice interrupted his thoughts. The student in front of him turned around and, with a faint smile, said, "Even so, it's still not the worst outcome." The comment caught Lu Fan off guard, leaving him momentarily speechless. The boy sighed and leaned closer to Lu Fan, muttering, "Did you hear about Li Ping from Class 3? His family's already struggling to make ends meet, and he got stuck with the most expensive enhancement profession. It's practically worse than a life profession. At least life professions come with a usable skill." Lu Fan's gaze instinctively shifted toward a boy standing off to the side, his shoulders slouched and his face clouded with despair. Li Ping, the student in question, seemed overwhelmed by the weight of his newfound burden. A cold chill ran down Lu Fan's spine as he glanced back at the stage. His own family's financial situation wasn't great either, and he couldn't shake the unsettling thought of what might happen if he ended up in a similar position. Before he could dwell on it further, the sound of his name being called snapped him out of his thoughts. "Lu Fan," the elder bellowed, his voice echoing across the courtyard. Startled, Lu Fan raised his hand hastily. "Here. I'm here," he called back, his voice slightly shaky. Taking a deep breath, he made his way toward the stage. As he climbed the steps, scattered whispers followed him. "Hey, isn't he kind of handsome?" a female student murmured, nudging her friend. "I wonder what profession he'll get." Reaching the center of the stage, Lu Fan found himself standing before the glowing job transition crystal. His heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. No point in being nervous now, he told himself. Whatever happens, happens. The priest began chanting, his voice low and resonant as he activated his skills. Energy swirled around the crystal, and its glow intensified. Lu Fan watched intently as the crystal came alive, radiating a powerful light. Suddenly, an eerie image appeared within its depths, a single, piercing dragon's eye that seemed to look directly at him. The ground beneath the stage began to rumble, causing gasps of alarm to ripple through the crowd. "What's going on? Is this an earthquake?" a student shouted, gripping their friend's arm for balance. Before anyone could answer, a brilliant beam of light shot down from the heavens, enveloping Lu Fan in its radiant glow. The students shielded their eyes, squinting against the brightness. As the light faded, an enormous dragon materialized behind Lu Fan, its scales glistening like molten gold and its presence utterly commanding. "Look," someone exclaimed. Lu Fan's job transition summoned a dragon. "That's insane," another student added, their voice trembling with excitement. "This kind of phenomenon only happens with hidden professions." "Wait, a hidden profession? Are you serious?" someone else asked, eyes wide with disbelief. Meanwhile, a female teacher standing at the edge of the courtyard hurriedly pulled out her communicator and called Mr. Lee, Lu Fan's homeroom teacher. "Mr. Lee, your class has produced the school's first hidden profession. Can you believe it?" Mr. Lee's voice crackled over the line, filled with awe and speculation. If that's true, and Lu Fan transitions into one of the strongest hidden professions, like a dragon blood warrior or a dragon language mage, he could become a pivotal figure in the Dragon Kingdom's history. He might even rival the legends. The dragon hovering above Lu Fan roared thunderously, its voice shaking the air and sending waves of awe through the gathered students. "It's been 10 years since someone became a dragon blood warrior," Mr. Lee continued, his tone reverent. "And that person is now the Dragon Kingdom's greatest expert," the female teacher added, her eyes shining with anticipation as she gazed at Lu Fan. Could he be next? On the stage, Lu Fan stood motionless, the dragon's presence behind him casting a shadow over the awestruck crowd. Mr. Lee and the gathered crowd held their breath as all eyes fixated on Lu Fan, waiting to see what profession would emerge from such a spectacular display. Meanwhile, the massive dragon in the air let out a deafening roar that shook the earth. Without warning, it swooped down toward Lu Fan in a blur of golden scales, its dive triggering an explosion of light and force that sent shockwaves rippling across the stage. Students screamed in alarm, their hands shielding their faces from the blinding light. On stage, Lu Fan flinched instinctively, throwing his arms up to protect himself from the impact. The dragon's immense presence seemed to overwhelm the area, leaving many frozen in awe and fear. The priest and the elder, alarmed by the chaos, rushed toward Lu Fan. The elder reached him first, gripping his arm firmly. "Quickly! What's your profession?" he demanded, his voice sharp with urgency. "Are you a dragon blood warrior? Or perhaps a dragon language mage?" Lu Fan hesitated, his face pale as he avoided the elder's piercing gaze. Taking a deep breath, he bit his lip before muttering, I'm a dragon tamer." For a moment, there was silence. Then, the elder's expression twisted in disbelief, and Mr. Lee's brows furrowed deeply. "A dragon tamer?" the elder repeated, his voice rising with incredulity. "After all that spectacle? That grand scene? And you ended up as a dragon tamer?" The disappointment in his tone was unmistakable. He shook his head, muttering bitterly, "Of all the hidden professions, why the most useless one?" His words cut like a blade, leaving Lu Fan standing there, shoulders slumped under the weight of their expectations. After the job transition ceremony concluded, Lu Fan wandered the streets of Zhong City, his footsteps slow and aimless. The old town district stretched before him, its narrow alleys bustling with life, but he barely noticed the activity around him. His focus was entirely on the glowing screen hovering before him, the system interface only he could see. His eyes scanned the information displayed, his mind replaying the events of the ceremony. The weight of the elder's disappointment and the murmurs of the students echoed in his ears. "You're destined for mediocrity," one student had said, their words biting as they dismissed him. "Humans can't possibly tame creatures as powerful as dragons." Another had nodded in agreement. "Sure, it's a hidden class," they had sneered, "but it's the weakest one in terms of actual strength. What's the point of a title if it can't deliver results?" Lu Fan sighed deeply, the memory stinging like a fresh wound. His gaze hardened as he stared at the system screen. Though the doubts of others weighed on him, a flicker of resolve sparked in his eyes. If the system chose him as a dragon tamer, there had to be a reason. He just needed to figure it out. When one of the students overheard the conversation about dragon tamers being considered the weakest, he turned to the person next to him for confirmation. "Isn't dragon tamer still classified as one of the 3 major hidden professions, alongside dragon blood warrior and dragon language mage?" he asked skeptically. The other student nodded but added with a smirk, "It is, technically. But what's the point? Nobody can even find dragons, let alone tame them. Honestly, it'd be better to choose something like a summoner. At least they can call for creatures that actually show up." Meanwhile, the elder on stage, recovering from his initial shock, attempted to console Lu Fan. Patting his shoulder, he offered a thin smile. "Well, at least you've awakened a hidden class," he said. "Dragon tamers have limitless potential. Who knows? Maybe you'll manage to tame some lesser dragons and still achieve great power." Lu Fan's expression remained grim. Shaking his head, he replied bitterly, "Limitless potential? A dragon tamer without a dragon is nothing but a joke. And even if I somehow found lesser dragons, they're just ferocious beasts. They could never compare to real dragons." His voice dropped as he continued, "In the entire 800-year history of the Dragon Kingdom, there have been sightings of dragons, but not once has there been a dragon tamer who actually tamed one. Even the strongest humans are like ants before the might of a true dragon. Trying to tame one? It's an impossible dream, nothing more." Lu Fan sighed, his gaze falling to the hidden system interface floating before him. Swiping at the screen, he muttered to himself, "Without a dragon tamer can't unlock skills, let alone grow stronger. What's the point of potential if it's locked behind something unattainable?" His shoulders slumped further as thoughts of his aunt weighed heavily on him. She had sacrificed so much, working tirelessly to ensure he could attend school. Yet now, with this so-called hidden profession, he felt powerless to give her the better life she deserved. Lost in his thoughts, Lu Fan hardly noticed his surroundings until he arrived at a familiar street. The scent of freshly steamed buns wafted through the air, bringing him back to reality. Glancing up at the sign, he realized he'd unconsciously walked home. Taking a deep breath, Lu Fan straightened himself and forced a smile onto his face. Pushing open the door to the modest bun shop, he called out cheerfully, "Auntie, I'm home." Inside, his aunt, Han Ki, was busy arranging a tray of piping hot buns. She looked up at the sound of his voice, her face lighting up with joy. "Lu Fan, you're back," she exclaimed warmly. The aroma of the meal she had prepared filled the room as she motioned for him to sit. Despite the heaviness in his heart, Lu Fan's smile widened, knowing he couldn't let his worries dampen her happiness. For now, he would set aside his doubts and cherish this moment of comfort and familiarity. Lu Fan was caught off guard when Han Ki greeted him with an enthusiastic hug, her joy evident in her voice as she exclaimed, "You're back." Before he could respond, she clasped his arm and eagerly led him to the dining table. Her smile was radiant as she said, "Today was your big day. Your job transition must have gone well." As they sat down, Han Ki leaned forward with anticipation. "So? What profession did you awaken?" she asked. Lu Fan hesitated, his shoulders drooping as he struggled to form an answer. His expression turned somber, and Han Ki noticed immediately. Concern flickered in her eyes, but she quickly spoke up to reassure him. "It's okay, you know. Even if you didn't awaken as a combat professional, that's fine by me. I'd just worry if you were out there fighting dangerous battles every day." Before she could finish, Lu Fan cut her off with a quiet, "No, it's not that." His words faltered as he confessed, I awakened as a dragon tamer." His gaze dropped to the table, unable to meet hers. "But it's a profession that's practically useless without a dragon." To his surprise, Han Ki didn't react with shock or disappointment. Instead, she broke into a warm, genuine smile. Rising from her seat, she walked over and hugged him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder. "A dragon tamer? That's wonderful," she said brightly. "It means you're incredibly strong, even if you don't see it yet." Her voice was steady, filled with unshakable confidence. "No matter what, I'll support you. If you decide to pursue college, I'll do everything I can to help you succeed. And if you don't want to, you can stay here and run the bun shop with me." Lu Fan felt his chest tighten with emotion. Her unwavering support and kind words filled him with gratitude. A small smile tugged at his lips as he said softly, "Thank you, Auntie." Han Ki clapped her hands together cheerfully and said, "Enough worrying for now. Let's eat." She gestured to the feast she had prepared. Lu Fan's eyes widened as he took in the sheer amount of food. This is way too much. How am I supposed to finish all this?" Not long after, Lu Fan found himself back in his small room, lying face first on his bed. As he stared at the ceiling, his thoughts drifted to Han Ki. Her hard-working hands flashed in his memory, and he sighed deeply. "She's only 26, he muttered to himself. Despite pouring years of effort into her life profession, she's still stuck living an ordinary life. She deserves so much better. Lu Fan's resolve grew as he stared at the system interface hovering faintly in his peripheral vision. For her sake, and his own, he would find a way to make his seemingly useless profession matter. Determined to change his fate, Lu Fan clenched his fists, staring at the ceiling with frustration. "I can't just accept this," he muttered, his voice trembling with emotion. "Being a dragon tamer, it's supposed to be a real hidden profession, but only if I can actually find a dragon." His frustration boiled over, and he slammed his fist against the mattress. I refuse to live like this. There has to be a way. As his thoughts spiraled, something unexpected caught his attention. A soft chime echoed in his mind, and the system's interface appeared before him. Congratulations! You've unlocked your first feature. A treasure map has been sent. Lu Fan's eyes widened in disbelief. A god-tier treasure map? On the very first day, he muttered, his voice filled with surprise. The realization hit him like a lightning bolt. Of course. The system is called the Super Treasure Map System. That's what it said when it activated. Excitement surged through him as he opened the chest that had materialized alongside the notification. He paused, recalling how he'd only tested the system's appraisal function earlier that day and hadn't explored its true potential. The system's voice chimed in again, providing an explanation. Treasure maps are divided into 4 levels: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and god tier. 3 identical lower-level maps can be combined into one higher-level map. Additionally, you will receive a treasure map every day, each corresponding to a randomly assigned level and location tied to your profession. Lu Fan read the explanation intently, his mind racing. Treasures tied to his profession? Could this be the key to unlocking the potential of a dragon tamer? When he clicked on the chest, a map appeared, displaying a marked location. A notification informed him. Today's treasure map, God tier. Location, stone plains near the mountain range. Danger level, 10. Lu Fan studied the map closely, his fingers tracing the outline of the area. The stone plains, it's not that far from Zhonghai City. If I catch the last suburban bus tonight, I can get there by dawn. Resolve flashed in his eyes as he closed the system screen. He stood up, a new determination swelling within him. If I give up now, I'll spend my whole life struggling at the bottom of society. I won't even be able to repay Auntie Han Ki for everything she's done for me. I can't let that happen. With his mind set, Lu Fan quickly began preparing for his journey, ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited him on the stone plains. This was his chance to prove that being a dragon tamer wasn't a curse, but a hidden blessing waiting to be uncovered. The first light of dawn broke over the bun shop, where Han Ki stirred awake. Stretching and rubbing her eyes, she stepped into the kitchen, expecting to find Lu Fan asleep in his room. But her steps faltered when she noticed a neatly folded letter sitting on the dining table. Curious and slightly uneasy, Han Ki picked up the letter and glanced toward Lu Fan's bedroom. The bed was empty. Lu Fan, she called out, but the house was eerily silent. Her gaze shifted back to the letter, and her heart tightened as she unfolded it. In the letter, Lu Fan explained his sudden departure. He wrote that he was heading to the stone plains near the mountains, convinced it might hold the key to rewriting the fate of a dragon tamer. He urged her not to worry and promised he would return safely. His words resonated with determination, but they couldn't dispel the shadow of worry that crept over Han Ki as she clutched the letter to her chest. Meanwhile, miles away, a bus rattled along the winding roads leading out of Zhonghai City and toward the mountain range. Lu Fan sat near the window, the rolling scenery flashing by as his thoughts churned. He replayed the message he left behind, telling Han Ki to wait for his return and that he would do everything in his power to secure a brighter future for both of them. The bus came to a screeching halt at its final stop, and Lu Fan stepped off into the crisp morning air. He glanced at the map displayed on his system screen, noting that his destination lay just ahead. Determination hardened his features as he gripped the straps of his pack. I promised her, he murmured to himself. I'll make sure we have the life we deserve. As Lu Fan moved toward the marked location, he noticed a group of 3 individuals following him off the bus. Their steps echoed his, and their gazes were sharp and calculating. He tightened his grip on his bag, uneasy but unwilling to confront them outright. His unease turned to alarm when he overheard snippets of their conversation. They were planning to ambush him and steal any valuable materials he might find. Lu Fan's heart pounded, but he kept his pace steady, muttering under his breath. One guy asked if he wanted to go together, but Lu Fan ignored him. In this wilderness, murder and robbery are as common as breathing. The 3 strangers blocked his path, their expressions smug and predatory. One, a wiry man with a crooked grin, leaned forward menacingly. Have you made up your mind yet? He sneered. Lu Fan instinctively reached for the dagger strapped to his waist, his hand trembling but firm. No thanks, stay back, he shouted, his voice wavering but loud enough to show he wouldn't go down without a fight. The woman in the group chuckled, blowing him a mocking kiss. Relax, sweetheart, she cooed before turning away. Her companions followed, their laughter echoing behind them. We'll see you around. Lu Fan's jaw tightened as he watched them retreat. Anger flared within him, and he muttered, despicable bastards. He adjusted his grip on the dagger, his knuckles white. A bitter sigh escaped him as he trudged forward. Even in the wilderness, where danger lurks at every turn, it's safer than being stabbed in the back by people like them, he mused aloud. His eyes burned with frustration as he stared at the rugged landscape ahead. Without strength, life is nothing more than a fleeting shadow, he muttered. Easily swept away by the winds of fate. But I won't let that be my story. With renewed resolve, Lu Fan pressed on, his every step echoing his determination to carve a new path for himself, no matter how perilous the journey. Glancing at the map displayed on his system interface, Lu Fan squinted at the faintly glowing marker indicating his destination. I need to move quickly, he muttered, feeling the urgency in his chest. Shortly after setting out, a faint rustling noise reached his ears. Instinctively, he crouched and ducked behind a nearby bush. Peering through the thick foliage, he spotted a herd of level 8 powerhorn horses grazing serenely in the open field ahead. Lu Fan's breath hitched. He knew that these creatures, though not aggressive by nature, would retaliate fiercely if disturbed. At his current level, 10 without any active skills, he wouldn't stand a chance against even one of them, let alone an entire herd. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Shaking his head, he muttered, "Forget it. It's not worth the risk." He carefully backed away from the bush, ensuring not to make any sudden noises, and veered onto an alternate path. As the grassy plains stretched endlessly around him, Lu Fan felt far from reassured. His surroundings grew eerily quiet, broken only by the faint rustle of wind and distant animal calls. With every step, he became more alert. The ground was dotted with level 7 giant horn antelopes, their bulky forms grazing lazily, but their large, spiraling horns gleamed menacingly in the sunlight. Lu Fan gulped, his voice a low mutter. So much for a safer route. It doesn't feel safe at all. His eyes darted nervously from one antelope to the next as he carefully maneuvered between them. I should be close, he murmured, checking the system map once more. Just a little. His sentence was abruptly cut off when his foot landed on something soft and slimy. A loud, agonized croak shattered the silence. Lu Fan's heart sank as he looked down to see a squished frog writhing underfoot. He froze. The grazing antelopes, startled by the sudden noise, turned their attention toward him. Their glowing eyes locked onto his trembling figure. One let out a guttural bellow, and the rest followed suit, their hooves stomping the ground in sync. "Oh, no," Lu Fan whispered, his face pale. Without another second to think, he bolted. The thunder of hooves behind him sent waves of panic coursing through his body as the herd charged in his direction. "Damn it," he cursed. "I just had to step on that frog." His lungs burned as he sprinted, dodging low branches and thick underbrush in a desperate attempt to lose the stampeding creatures. The ground quaked beneath him, each tremor a reminder of how close they were. Spotting a small ridge to his side, Lu Fan made a split-second decision. He threw himself to the ground, rolling into the grass and out of their path. A sharp jolt of pain shot through him as he hit the uneven terrain, but he gritted his teeth and stayed low. Peering back cautiously, he gasped. The ground where the frog once sat was now a crater, pulverized by the sheer force of the antelope's charge. Among the rubble, a pair of small frog legs protruded pitifully. "That could have been me," Lu Fan whispered, his voice trembling. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he let out a shaky laugh tinged with despair. "If I can't even deal with a skittish giant horn antelope, what hope do I have? Missing my chance out here might seal my fate just like that poor frog." Clenching his fists, he forced himself to stand, brushing off the dirt from his clothes. "No," he said, a spark of determination lighting his eyes. "I won't let it end like this." With renewed resolve, Lu Fan trudged forward, keeping an even sharper eye on his surroundings. The path was treacherous, but he had no choice but to push on. As Lu Fan trudged forward, his system suddenly pinged with a notification, breaking the silence of the wilderness. His heart raced as he read the message. He had reached the designated treasure map location. "This is it," he exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. His eyes sparkled as they landed on a faintly glowing rock ahead. Approaching it cautiously, he scanned his surroundings for any potential threats. Satisfied that the area was clear, he stepped closer and examined the peculiar rock. Just beneath it, nestled in a hollow, lay an extraordinary object, a black egg, smooth and glossy, emanating a faint, otherworldly aura. Lu Fan's breath hitched. "A dragon egg," he whispered, awe and disbelief blending in his tone. His hands trembled as he gently touched its surface. "This is it," he murmured, his voice growing more resolute. "The treasure that could change everything for a dragon tamer." Before he could fully process the gravity of the moment, a sharp cracking noise pulled his attention back to the egg. Jagged lines spread across its shell, and Lu Fan's eyes widened in realization. "It's hatching," he gasped. The dragon's birth was imminent. Just as anticipation surged within him, a faint rustling noise came from the bushes behind him. Lu Fan's body tensed, and he immediately drew his novice cleaver, a plain but reliable weapon he had carried since his transition. His eyes darted toward the source of the disturbance. So much for smooth sailing, he muttered, gripping his weapon tightly. The underbrush parted, revealing a sleek, feral creature with gleaming red eyes, a bloodthirsty gray fox. Its growl was low and guttural, a warning that it was not to be trifled with. Lu Fan recognized the beast instantly and cursed under his breath. The fox lunged without warning, its sharp teeth sinking into the edge of his cleaver. Lu Fan gritted his teeth as he pushed back, trying to free his weapon from the creature's vice-like grip. The fox snarled, its strength almost overpowering his own. Not today. Lu Fan shouted, summoning every ounce of energy he had. With a battle cry, he twisted his cleaver and managed to force the fox off balance. The beast was flung to the ground with a yelp, skidding across the dirt before scrambling to its feet. Panting, Lu Fan quickly pulled up the system's interface to assess his adversary. The information flashed across the screen. Bloodthirsty gray fox. Skills. Triple claw strike, a swift 3-hit combo with devastating speed. Bloodthirst, boosts attack power as the fox grows more injured. Lu Fan's hands tightened around his weapon as he stared at the snarling beast. Of course, it couldn't be easy, he muttered through gritted teeth. But if I'm going to survive this, I'll need to end it before it gets stronger. Lu Fan stared at the information displayed on the system interface. The bloodthirsty gray fox's abilities made his heart sink. Skills. Triple claw strike, a rapid 3-hit combo designed to inflict severe bleeding. Bloodthirst recovery, regenerates health proportionate to the blood loss of its target. Lu Fan clenched his jaw, his mind racing. The combination of those skills meant the fox could wear him down and heal itself simultaneously, a deadly cycle he had no reliable way to counter. He cast a glance at the dragon egg behind him, its cracks deepening as faint tremors rippled across its surface. Hope flickered within him. If I can just hold out until the dragon hatches, maybe I can use dragon taming, he muttered. But his fleeting optimism was shattered by a blur of motion. The bloodthirsty gray fox lunged at him with startling speed, and Lu Fan barely had time to react. Instinctively, he raised his arm to block the attack. The fox's claws raked his forearm, drawing deep lines of crimson as he stumbled backward. Damn it, he hissed through gritted teeth. The searing pain made it clear, he couldn't afford to drag this out. He had to deal with the fox before it could exploit its bloodthirst recovery. The fox crouched, its muscles coiling like a spring. Lu Fan's eyes narrowed as he braced himself. It's preparing for the triple claw strike, he muttered, trying to calm his breathing. I've got one shot to stop it. The fox pounced, slashing with ferocity. Lu Fan raised his weapon just in time to block the first strike. His arms trembled under the force of the blow. One down, he murmured, his voice taut with focus. The second attack came even faster, and Lu Fan gritted his teeth as he parried it with a desperate swing of his cleaver. He staggered, feeling his strength wane. 2. The final strike was a blur. With all his remaining agility, Lu Fan twisted his body, narrowly evading the blow. The fox's claws sliced through the air, missing him by mere inches. Now! Lu Fan roared, pouring every ounce of strength into his counterattack. His cleaver came down in a powerful arc, slamming into the fox's side. A spray of blood erupted as the beast yelped and collapsed onto the ground, writhing in pain. Without hesitation, Lu Fan drove his weapon downward again, pinning the fox to the dirt. Panting heavily, he pulled his cleaver free, watching as the fox's movement stilled. The system chimed with a notification. Bloodthirsty gray fox defeated. Reward, 120 XP. Lu Fan let out a shaky breath, his body trembling from exhaustion. I did it, he muttered, glancing back at the dragon egg. The cracks on its surface grew wider, a faint glow emanating from within. Lu Fan exhaled heavily, his chest rising and falling as he tried to calm his nerves. Finally dealt with it, he muttered, his eyes briefly shifting to the lifeless body of the bloodthirsty gray fox. Before he could fully relax, a sharp laugh pierced the quiet air, sending a chill down his spine. Well, you actually managed to take it down, a raspy voice sneered. Lu Fan turned, his expression darkening as the group of robbers emerged from the shadows. The old man leading them clapped mockingly, his grin revealing crooked teeth. Impressive work, kid, he said, his tone laced with insincerity. Lu Fan's eyes narrowed. You've been following me this whole time, he accused, gripping his weapon tightly. I already told you, I'm not interested in joining your little gang. The woman in the group waved her hand dismissively, her smile deceptively sweet. Relax, handsome. No need to get all worked up, she purred. We just wanted to see if you were lying to us. Lying? Lu Fan growled, his jaw tightening. The old man chuckled, his eyes glinting with amusement. You said you were a summoner, didn't you? Yet, here you are, fighting tooth and nail with no skills to back you up. Makes one wonder. Lu Fan's grip on his cleaver faltered momentarily, but he quickly masked his unease. Without a word, he kicked the bloodthirsty gray fox's corpse toward them, the carcass landing with a dull thud at their feet. If it's the fox's fur you want, take it. Now leave me alone. The old man crouched, gripping the fox by its tail and inspecting it with a smirk. This? Worth maybe 80 dragon coins at best, he scoffed. His grin widened as his gaze shifted back to Lu Fan. But that's not what we're after, is it? Lu Fan stiffened, his blood running cold as he caught the old man's lingering gaze. It wasn't on him, it was on the dragon egg behind him, still faintly glowing as cracks continued to form along its surface. Bastards, Lu Fan spat, realization dawning on him. You saw me searching for it? The old man stood, his expression turning sinister. Boys, let's not waste any more time. Get him. Lu Fan barely had a moment to react before the muscular brute and the sly woman charged at him. The man rushed forward like a bull, while the woman drew a thin, gleaming blade and pointed it at him with a mocking pout. Such a shame, she cooed, her eyes gleaming with malice. You're too handsome to die here. Lu Fan gritted his teeth, raising his cleaver defensively as he prepared for the inevitable clash. The muscular man grinned victoriously as he grabbed the dragon egg, his large hands cradling it like a prized trophy. What a beautiful egg, the old man marveled, his voice filled with awe as he leaned closer for a better look. Lu Fan's heart raced, panic and desperation fueling his thoughts. No, he shouted, his voice breaking with emotion. That egg is my only chance to turn my life around? He clenched his fists, trembling with rage and helplessness. Just as Lu Fan prepared to lunge forward, a sudden cracking sound silenced everyone. The egg in the muscular man's hand splintered, fine cracks spreading rapidly across its glossy black surface. His grip tightened in shock, but before he could react further, the shell shattered completely. From within the fragments, something dark and swift shot out, moving too fast for their eyes to follow. The robbers froze, staring upward in disbelief. Against the dim light, a shadowy silhouette loomed above them, its form both majestic and terrifying. What is that thing? The woman stammered, her voice shaking. Lu Fan, however, stood rooted in place, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. It's a dragon, he whispered, almost in disbelief. The creature above them was unmistakable, a black dragon, its scales shimmering ominously. The dragon let out a guttural roar and dove toward the robbers with breathtaking speed. The old man, regaining his composure, quickly hurled a potion bottle at the creature. Get away, beast, he barked, his voice trembling with both anger and fear. The dragon tilted its body gracefully, dodging the bottle with an elegance that belied its size. As it maneuvered, the muscular man seized his chance, raising his fist to strike. But before he could swing, the dragon let out another ferocious roar, its aura exploding outward like a tidal wave. In an instant, the man's body was shredded to pieces, the force of the dragon's power leaving only his severed head tumbling to the ground. The old man's face turned pale as he stared in horror at the bloodied remains of his companion. What is this monster? He stammered, his voice barely audible. The black dragon's piercing gaze shifted to the old man, its eyes glowing with an ominous light. No, the old man shouted, stumbling backward. He turned frantically to the woman. Do something. Help me. Meanwhile, Lu Fan stood paralyzed, his mind reeling. Even freshly hatched, it's this strong, he murmured in disbelief. No wonder no one can tame a dragon. Their power is unmatched. The woman, overhearing Lu Fan's mutterings, snapped her head toward him. Wait, did you just say this is a dragon egg? She demanded, her voice tinged with panic. Before she could press further, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. Her eyes darted toward the source, and her face twisted in terror as she saw blood spraying across the ground. The old man lay motionless in a crimson pool, his body mangled beyond recognition. The black dragon casually plucked pieces of eggshell from its teeth with its claws, as if the carnage it had caused was of no consequence. Its head rose slowly, and its unrelenting gaze locked onto the woman. Her entire body trembled uncontrollably as she took a step back, her expression frozen in pure horror. For the first time, she realized that she wasn't just facing a creature of immense power, she was standing before death itself. Lu Fan didn't hesitate as he shoved the woman aside, her startled cry echoing as she hit the ground with a thud. Standing firm, he glared at her, his voice cold and resolute. You dungeon robbers have no honor, he declared. For daring to steal what's rightfully mine, you've sealed your fate. The black dragon, sensing the shift in Lu Fan's demeanor, growled lowly, its gaze flicking between him and the robbers. As Lu Fan darted toward the dragon, it tensed, its wings twitching in readiness. But instead of attacking, Lu Fan raised his hand, and a brilliant light enveloped him as he activated his dragon-taming technique. The dragon froze, momentarily blinded by the radiant aura emanating from Lu Fan. Its eyes narrowed, both intrigued and bewildered. The woman, still on the ground, watched in shock, her voice trembling. Who are you? Lu Fan turned slightly, a sly grin tugging at his lips. You want to know who I am? He asked mockingly, his voice laced with confidence. I'm no ordinary summoner. I am a dragon tamer. The black dragon let out a deep, rumbling sound that echoed like thunder, its confusion giving way to submission. A system notification chimed in Lu Fan's mind. Black Dragon Covenant established. Skills unlocked, Dragon Claw, Dragon Fang Strike, Dragon's Inspiration. The woman's expression shifted from astonishment to terror. She scrambled to her knees, her voice cracking as she pleaded. Please, I didn't know it was a dragon egg. Spare me. Lu Fan's eyes darkened as he looked down at her. How many lives have you and your kind ruined with your schemes? He demanded, his voice like ice. I didn't, she stammered, but her words faltered under Lu Fan's piercing glare. Enough, he barked. His voice rang with finality as he gestured toward the black dragon. Go join your comrades in the afterlife. Without hesitation, the dragon lunged at the woman, its sleek form moving with deadly precision. Her screams cut through the air as she tried to flee, but it was futile. The sound of tearing flesh and the splatter of blood marked her end, her cries fading into silence. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight painted the sky with hues of gold and crimson. Lu Fan sat wearily on the ground, leaning against the black dragon's side as he tended to his injuries. He exhaled deeply, his breath fogging in the cool morning air. It's finally over, he murmured, relief washing over him. His moment of respite was interrupted by a rustling sound. Glancing to his side, Lu Fan noticed the black dragon rummaging through his bag with a curious expression. He raised an eyebrow, a faint smirk creeping onto his face. Hey, that's my stuff, he said, his tone softer now. What are you up to, you little glutton? The dragon let out a low rumble, nosing through the bag with unabashed curiosity. Lu Fan shook his head, a mix of amusement and exasperation flickering in his eyes. Despite the chaos that had unfolded, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of camaraderie with the creature that had become his ally. Lu Fan carefully lifted the black dragon into his arms, marveling at the small yet powerful creature. I can't believe this is real, he murmured, his voice tinged with amazement. The dragon growled softly, its small wings flapping in irritation as Lu Fan raised it higher. Amused by its feistiness, he chuckled. So lively already, huh? You've got quite the personality. He paused, allowing his imagination to wander as he pictured himself soaring through the skies on the dragon's back once it matured. A grin spread across his face. With you, I've truly crossed the line between weak and strong, he said, his tone brimming with excitement. If you're this strong right after hatching, I can't even fathom how powerful you'll become after leveling up. Hugging the dragon close, Lu Fan's eyes gleamed with determination. Soon, the title of Dragon Tamer won't be mocked as the weakest class anymore, he declared. His mind raced as he began pondering a fitting name for his new companion. Should I call you Little Cobble? Or maybe Black Diamond? He mused aloud, glancing at the dragon for any reaction. The black dragon, however, seemed uninterested in his naming dilemma. Its gaze was fixed intently on the bandaged wound on Lu Fan's arm. Before he could decide on a name, the dragon suddenly leaned in and began licking the wound with its rough tongue. Startled, Lu Fan yelped, Hey! What are you doing? Cut it out. Before he could pull away, an intense crimson aura began to radiate from the dragon. The energy surged outward, forcing Lu Fan back as a sharp pain shot through his body. Gritting his teeth, he tried to shield himself, but his eyes widened in shock as he saw the dragon's form enveloped in the glowing red light. A humanoid visage emerged within the aura, adorned with curved horns and otherworldly features. As the energy dissipated, Lu Fan gasped, his eyes locking onto the figure that now stood where the dragon once was. Before him stood a striking red-haired woman, her horns gleaming and her fiery gaze filled with curiosity. Her figure was both imposing and graceful, with a commanding presence that left Lu Fan momentarily speechless. What in the world just happened? He stammered, struggling to process the scene before him. Wait, are you telling me you can transform into a human form too? The woman nodded with a calm expression, her movements fluid and deliberate. Still in disbelief, Lu Fan hastily pulled up the system interface, his fingers trembling as he accessed the black dragon's attributes. Meanwhile, the woman, still exploring her surroundings, seemed to be taking everything in with childlike curiosity. Lu Fan's eyes darted across the screen as the attributes loaded. His mouth fell open as he studied the details. As I thought, he murmured, his voice tinged with awe. Taming a dragon, it really unlocks every skill they possess. This is beyond anything I imagined. He looked up, meeting the dragon-turned woman's piercing gaze. Though his mind was reeling, a glimmer of excitement sparked within him. With you by my side, he muttered under his breath, the world won't stand a chance. Lu Fan began explaining the incredible potential of the skills unlocked through his bond with the Black Dragon. Dragon's inspiration, he remarked, is a game changer. It enhances both my strength and the dragon's, granting a 30% boost to all attributes and attack power. He marveled at the skill's potency, noting that it far surpassed the buffs provided by even the most skilled priests. He continued, Dragon Fang Strike isn't just a high-damage ability, it's devastating. And with Dragon Claw, I can channel the dragon's power directly into my own arm, delivering blows that rival her strength. Curiosity piqued, Lu Fan pulled up the Black Dragon's profile and clicked through her stats. As he scanned the information, his eyes widened in astonishment. Even if we disregard her being a newly hatched dragon, her base stats alone are leagues ahead, he muttered, a sense of awe creeping into his voice. Her attributes are 5 to 6 times higher than a normal human's. If I relied solely on my boosted abilities, I could still obliterate combat professions of the same level. When the system displayed her skills and detailed attributes, Lu Fan was momentarily speechless. Each of her attributes was in the triple digits, a staggering revelation. She's only a level 1 hatchling, he murmured, shaking his head in disbelief. Yet, with nearly 400 points in every attribute, she's stronger than even the most seasoned human fighters. Not even a human expert 20 levels higher would stand a chance against her. He clenched his fists, sensing the amplified strength coursing through his body. It's no wonder I feel this much stronger, he said, recalling the blood connection they shared. It doubles all my attributes directly. Dragons are on an entirely different level. Reflecting on the strongest hidden job classes, Lu Fan smirked. No matter how powerful they claim to be, nothing can compare to taming a dragon. Without a doubt, the Dragon Tamer is the most powerful hidden job class. While he stood proudly, basking in his newfound power, the Black Dragon was happily chewing on the remnants of her eggshells. Lu Fan chuckled as he observed her behavior. Even though you can take on a human form, it seems you haven't lost your dragon instincts, he remarked with a grin. As the dragon finished her feast, Lu Fan stroked his chin thoughtfully. I suppose I need to give you a proper name, he mused aloud. Gazing at her sleek black scales that glistened in the morning light, he considered her birth. Born in the darkest hour before dawn, how about Zioi? At the mention of the name, the dragon lifted her head and let out an excited howl. Lu Fan laughed. Looks like you like it, he said warmly. Admiring her, he muttered to himself, this treasure hunt may have been dangerous, but it was more than worth it. Glancing at Zioi, who was now sniffing at his bag, he grinned and asked, Are you hungry? Her enthusiastic howl was all the confirmation he needed, and he laughed again, feeling a rare moment of camaraderie with his newly hatched yet immensely powerful companion. Lu Fan decided it was time to hunt for monsters to satisfy Zioi's hunger. We can't just leave the mountains empty-handed, he reasoned, leading the way deeper into the forest. He added that this was an opportunity not only to feed Zioi but also to prepare for the upcoming university trials. The prestigious South Province Scholar Reward and a chance to enroll in the Dragon Kingdom's top university were within reach, but Lu Fan knew he couldn't let his guard down. Leveling up and honing my skills is the only way to secure my spot, he muttered, determination shining in his eyes. He motioned Zioi to follow, and the black dragon eagerly flew close behind. You'll love the monsters in the depths, Lu Fan teased. They'll taste much better than those eggshells. Zioi responded with a delighted howl, clearly thrilled by the idea. Their playful mood shifted abruptly when a thunderous roar echoed through the air. Lu Fan and Zioi froze, instinctively turning toward the source of the noise. Moments later, a pack of creatures emerged from the shadows, charging directly at them. Lu Fan quickly summoned the system's interface to identify their attackers. Plain hyenas, he read aloud, recognizing their ferocity. Unlike the bloodthirsty gray fox he had fought earlier, these creatures were stronger and more cunning, often hunting in coordinated packs. Lu Fan clenched his fists. In the past, these beasts would have been a nightmare, he mused, recalling how much effort it had taken to defeat a single gray fox. But that was before he could strategize, a powerful gust of wind swept past him. Lu Fan shielded his face, realizing the sudden force came from Zioi, who had already taken flight. She soared into the sky, her wings slicing through the air with ease. Lu Fan grinned. Looks like you're eager to fight, he said, his voice steady with newfound confidence. All right then, let's show them what we're made of. With Zioi circling overhead, Lu Fan charged forward, weapon at the ready. For the strongest dragon tamer and his companion, these rocky plains are no challenge at all, he declared boldly. High above, Zioi glided gracefully, her sharp eyes locked onto the pack of hyenas below. Her presence alone was enough to instill fear, but Lu Fan knew that the real show was just beginning. Zioi inhaled deeply, her chest glowing as she prepared to unleash an attack. Without hesitation, she activated her lava flame ability, releasing a torrent of scorching flames that engulfed the plain hyenas. The intense heat not only incinerated her foes but also restored her vitality with every use. Lu Fan watched in satisfaction as the system notifications appeared, 380 experience points earned for each hyena defeated. As Zioi continued to reduce the pack to ashes, Lu Fan's level climbed to 2, and Zioi advanced to level 3. Not bad, Lu Fan muttered, glancing at his glowing status screen. But he knew they needed something more challenging to gain significant experience. We'll need to hunt an elite monster if we want faster progress, he decided, calling out to Zioi. She paused her assault, glancing back at him. Forget the small fry. There's something bigger ahead, Lu Fan said, narrowing his eyes at the faint glimmer in the darkness. From the shadows emerged a hulking creature with razor-sharp claws and an aura of dominance. The monster's guttural growl reverberated through the air as it stepped forward, revealing its massive frame. A level 25 three-skull blood lion, Lu Fan identified, his voice steady but laced with anticipation. An elite leader. Normally, it'd take a team of hunters to bring one down. But we're no ordinary team, are we, he said, smirking at Zioi. She let out a fierce howl in agreement. The blood lion snarled, activating its roar skill. The powerful sound wave swept across the battlefield, accompanied by a gust of wind that sent loose rocks flying. Lu Fan gritted his teeth as the lion's stats surged, boosting its attack and defense significantly. The creature wasted no time preparing its next move, Triple Flame. Flames coiled around its 3 heads, forming glowing orbs of fire that threatened to unleash devastation in multiple bursts. Lu Fan acted swiftly. Zioi, we need to interrupt that skill, he commanded. Zioi growled affirmatively, flames spiraling around her as her aura intensified. The fiery dragoness transformed into a blazing whirlwind, her presence overwhelming the area with heat and pressure. Meanwhile, Lu Fan crouched low, his gaze fixed on the lion. As the beast focused on charging its skill, Lu Fan seized the opening. With a burst of energy, he leapt into the air, spinning as he ascended. Behind him, Zioi's fiery whirlwind surged forward, a burning tempest aimed directly at the blood lion. The two worked in perfect synchronization. Zioi's whirlwind collided with the blood lion, breaking its focus and scattering the charged flames. Simultaneously, Lu Fan descended from above, his weapon glowing with energy as he aimed for the lion's vulnerable spot. "This is how a dragon tamer fights," he shouted, striking with precision while Zioi roared, readying her next attack. As Zioi's fiery whirlwind intensified, Lu Fan smirked and remarked, "Let me try something new first." The flames around Zioi flared even brighter as she activated her dragon true shape skill. With a thunderous roar, she emerged from the fiery vortex, her form more imposing than before. Her scales gleamed ominously as she charged forward, unleashing her skill mighty jaw strike with terrifying speed. She clamped her powerful jaws onto the three-skull blood lion, tearing into its flesh and inflicting relentless bleeding damage. The attack disrupted the lion's triple flame skill, scattering its charged energy into harmless embers. "Well done, Zioi," Lu Fan shouted, his voice filled with admiration. Without hesitation, he seized the moment to strike. He gathered dragon energy into his weapon and activated Dragon Fang Strike, delivering a devastating blow that radiated power. The impact sent the massive blood lion crashing to the ground with a pained roar, its body riddled with deep injuries. Lu Fan somersaulted backward, landing with practiced ease as he surveyed the battlefield. The once mighty three-skull blood lion lay motionless, its breath shallow. "It's over," Lu Fan declared confidently as Zioi descended beside him, her wings folding gracefully. Moments later, a familiar chime rang in Lu Fan's ears. The system displayed their victory, 23,790 experience points earned each. Lu Fan grinned as he leveled up to level 4, while Zioi surged ahead to level 9. "Elite monsters sure are worth the effort," Lu Fan remarked, impressed by the rapid level gains. "Just one of these can boost us by several levels. If we keep this up, we'll be unstoppable." As he caught his breath, the treasure map system activated with a soft hum. A notification appeared, revealing a new treasure map. "Another one?" Lu Fan muttered, his curiosity piqued. The map's details hinted at an exclusive reward for dragon tamers. "Looks like we've got a hunt ahead of us, Zioi." Zioi howled enthusiastically, her tail swishing with excitement. Without wasting time, Lu Fan motioned her to follow as they headed toward their next adventure. Meanwhile, deep within the rocky plains, hidden among towering boulders, 3 figures stood quietly. A young woman with sharp eyes turned to the older man beside her. "Uncle G, are we really going to let this opportunity slip by? Something like this doesn't come around often." The man, Sun Ji, a seasoned warrior, let out a deep sigh. "It's not about what we want," he replied gravely. There's nothing we can do right now. Entry to Secret Realm required at least 5 people. Unfortunately, their group didn't have enough people. He suggested that Kier return to Zhonghai City to gather reinforcements, but Kier immediately shook his head in refusal. Even with my speed, Kier argued, a round trip would take an entire day. By the time I'm back, the Secret Realm will already have vanished. Qin Kuei, a young woman of an unknown combat class, sighed heavily. The Fortune Secret Realm appears randomly, and its rewards far surpass ordinary dungeons. But it only exists for 24 hours. We definitely won't make it in time. Her frustration was evident as she kicked a loose stone on the ground. Sun Ji, attempting to console her, said, Qin Kuei, there's no need to be so worried. With your abilities, once you get into one of the top 10 academies, you'll have plenty of opportunities like this. Qin Kuei crossed her arms and responded, I know that. But this realm's rewards, it's such a waste to let it slip away. Her voice trailed off, disappointment etched on her face. Suddenly, Sun Ji's expression hardened. His sharp instincts detected movement nearby. Someone's here, he growled, quickly stepping in front of Qin Kuei with his weapon drawn. Kier mirrored his actions, both of them bracing for a confrontation. From behind a nearby rock, a figure casually emerged. Lu Fan appeared with a disarming smile, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. Relax, he said lightly. I'm just passing through. Sun Ji scrutinized him from head to toe, noting the dirt and dust covering Lu Fan's attire. You don't look like you belong here. This isn't where a typical material hunter should be, he remarked skeptically. Before Sun Ji could say more, Qin Kuei raised her hand to signal him to stand down. She stepped forward and introduced herself with a polite smile. I'm Qin Kuei, from the Qin family of Zhonghai City, she began. This might seem a little abrupt, but I have a proposal for you. Lu Fan raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Go on. Qin Kuei continued, her tone earnest. We need one more person to activate the Fortune Secret Realm. If you agree to join us, you won't have to do anything inside the realm. Just help us enter. For your trouble, we're offering a reward of 100,000 dragon coins. Lu Fan's steps faltered as he heard the offer, his interest piqued. 100,000 dragon coins? He repeated, as if confirming what he just heard. Inside, his mind raced. The Fortune Secret Realm? Even the Qin family from Zhonghai City, one of the wealthiest families around, is desperate to enter. If they're this eager, the rewards must be extraordinary. Qin Kuei nodded, sensing his hesitation. Yes, 100,000. And we'll handle everything else inside? Lu Fan tilted his head, considering the proposition. That's quite the generous offer. Why don't you tell me more about this secret realm? Lu Fan nodded as Qin Kuei clarified that they just needed enough people to meet the requirements of the realm. She emphasized that Lu Fan wouldn't need to lift a finger during the exploration and could still walk away with the promised 100,000 dragon coins. As the portal to the secret realm shimmered to life, Sun Ji couldn't hide his excitement. Opportunities like this don't come often, he urged. Let's get moving before it's too late. Lu Fan, however, remained composed. Money isn't what I'm after, he stated calmly, surprising everyone. If we're going to work together, let's allocate the rewards based on contribution. Kier blinked in disbelief, stepping forward. So you're saying you want to split the rewards depending on how much each of us contributes? Are you serious? Lu Fan nodded. Exactly. Qin Kuei raised an eyebrow, scrutinizing him. Our average level is around 20, she pointed out. You look like you're significantly weaker than us. Are you confident in your skills, or is this just arrogance? Her skepticism didn't seem to faze Lu Fan. Instead, he extended his hand toward her. You'll find out soon enough, he replied with a small grin. Qin Kuei shook his hand after a brief pause and announced to the group, all right, it's settled. Let's head in. As the group prepared to enter the secret realm, Xiaoai remained hidden within Lu Fan's system interface, curled up and sleeping soundly. Lu Fan muttered under his breath, it'd only cause trouble if I revealed her here. Better to wait until I've secured the secret realm's rewards. Moments after stepping into the mysterious realm, Sun Ji couldn't help but glance over at Lu Fan. His sharp eyes quickly noticed something peculiar. You're not carrying any equipment, he remarked. Are you planning to fight barehanded? Lu Fan smirked, amused by the observation. Inwardly, he scoffed at the notion that he was unprepared. Slowly, he extended his hand, and a fiery aura began to swirl around his palm. In an instant, the flames coalesced into a weapon, his newly acquired ink dragon deer ambler sword, an epic-quality blade shimmering with a deep, obsidian sheen and intricate dragon carvings along its hilt. Everyone stared, stunned by the dramatic reveal. I didn't feel the need to show it earlier, Lu Fan explained casually, giving the weapon a quick flourish. I just defeated the three-skull blood lion not long ago. Triggered an advanced treasure map and finally upgraded my weapon. No more relying on that dull starter cleaver. Sun Ji's gaze lingered on the sword, his expression a mix of curiosity and respect. Not bad, he admitted. Looks like you're more prepared than I thought. Qin Kuei crossed her arms, watching Lu Fan with renewed interest. Well then, she said, a sly smile playing on her lips. Let's see if you can live up to that sword in this realm. Sun Ji's eyes widened at the sight of Lu Fan's sword. He couldn't help but marvel